This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill.
Do not be afraid. We are now in control of what you hear.
1, 2, 3, testing.
A journey to the far reaches of knowledge and the unknown.
I can't believe I just saw that.
From aliens to angels, conspiracies to cover-ups.
One soul and preeminent power.
From extraterrestrials to exposing the truth.
I'll try to explain as much as I can.
You're listening to Planet X.
You're listening to Planet X.
Planet X.
This is the Planet X Network, and stay tuned, the Darren Perks Show is coming up next.
Officially does not exist. This is Planet X. Planet X.
Good evening, everybody. It's 8 o'clock. It's Thursday evening. I'm Darren Perks, and you're listening to the Darren Perks Show on Planet X Live. Get ready for the journey. Okay then, folks, this week we are going to be covering the Solar Warden space program. And for those of you that do not have any clue what I'm talking about, just sit there for a moment and think Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, The Enterprise, Captain Kirk, Jean-Luc Picard, Number One, Data, and all the other guys that go with it. Not quite as extreme as that, but something that is very, very real and is happening in space, in vast orbits around the planet, and they're trying to keep it secret. I'm going to cover this week because it's something that I've spoken about before personally on the TV and on the radio, and I know there are many people around the world that are aware of the Solar Warden program. Not only is it highly controversial, but it's something that raises a few eyebrows. When I speak to people about the secret space program, Solar Warden, a lot of people say, no, load of nonsense. NASA, the North American Space Organization, or whatever you want to call them, personally I'd like to call them never a straight answer. People will say, no, NASA are the only people that are operating anything in space. Well, obviously, in the real world, we know that that's not true, because the Russians and the Chinese and the North Koreans and the European Space Agency are operating various vehicles in space. And vehicles I refer to there are satellites and space stations and supply modules and unmanned aerial vehicles, for example, or military drones that can fly at high speeds and high altitude. But since approximately 1980, a secret space fleet codenamed Solar Warden has been in operation unknown to the public. So you might be thinking, is this nonsense? Is it a conspiracy? Or is it something so sensitive that it will cause uproar around the world? An uproar is a key word there, because can you imagine, after all these years, since 1980, can you imagine if the American Department of Defense, the US government, came out publicly and said, yeah, we've been telling a lie all these years. Sorry folks, but we have a secret program. It's not going to happen, is it? But there are those of us, including myself and a one Mr. Gary McKinnon, who have managed to find out some information over the years. We've done our own research. Gary McKinnon, bless his soul, hacked into the Department of Defense computers, hacked into NASA's data, and came across the secret space program. He came across names of fleets of ships, starships if you want to call it, spaceships. He came across lists of non-terrestrial officers. Non-terrestrial officers. Now, a skeptic would say, yeah, but those are the people that are piloting, or they're the astronauts for NASA. Not true, folks. Non-terrestrial officers that worked on a secret program hosted by the US Navy as a cadet program to train people to operate space vehicles in space. Those personnel then disappeared off military record databases, and there are ex-serving personnel that can confirm that. What I did back in 2010, I started to research it. We all know what the freedom of information is. Freedom of information applies in every single country in the world. Freedom of information also exists in the United States. And what I did in 2010, whilst conducting research into the secret program, I sent a request to the DoD by email, and I had a very unexpected response.
From aliens to angels, conspiracies to cover-ups, this is Planet X.
That response, folks, was huge. Okay, again, totally unexpected. Okay, and this is the exact wording from the email. And the email came from someone called Kendall Cooper, or Cooper Kendall. He was a member of staff at the Stratcom facility in Maryland. And I still have that email. And this is his reply. About an hour ago, I spoke to a NASA representative who confirmed this was their program and that it was terminated by the President. He also informed me that it was not a joint program with the DoD. The NASA rep informed me that you should be directed to the Johnson Space Center Freedom of Information Act manager. I have run your request through one of our space-related directories, and I'm waiting on one other division with the command to respond back to me. I will contact you once I have had a response from the other division. Did NASA refer you to us? So there you go, folks. Okay, that was the email that I got back. So in that email, that member of staff at Stratcom, part of the US military, confirmed that an hour ago they spoke to NASA about my request. And my request was, is there or was there a secret space program codenamed Solar Warden? And he says in his response, he says, the rep confirmed this was their program. Okay? Just look at the bigger picture for a moment. This is a military member of staff who works for Stratcom. If you don't know what that is, Google it. It's pretty top stuff in the US military. This guy is willingly emailing me directly confirming that there's a secret space program. If you look at it on a bigger scale, he's confirming what Gary McKinnon did and found out. And Gary hacked into all those computer systems and he found out information about the secret space program. So this guy sitting in his office, probably has some sort of security clearance, is giving me information that really you could get sacked for doing. Is it punishable? You know, we're talking on the same lines here as Edward Snowden. In a way, not totally, but we are, aren't we? Ed Snowden's a whistleblower. He's given us loads of information. But Kendall Cooper at Stratcom, well, thank you very much, mate. You've just confirmed the secret space program. Fantastic. So obviously you can imagine what I'm thinking. What's interesting though, folks, is that he was told that I should be directed to the Johnson Space Center at NASA. Now, there are all sorts of stories on the internet about NASA and what they don't do and what they do behind closed doors and in public. And a lot of people think that NASA is just a massive public scam. It's just a big front to hide, obviously, all the secret space programs that are going on. I personally think that NASA do have a scientific purpose. We all know that, as they wouldn't waste all this money on it. And to be fair to them, and you've got to give them credit, they have made leaps and bounds in technology and progress in space. You can't knock them for that. At the end of the day, they're putting humans up in a space station, and they're conducting experiments. That's great. But what I do also know is that the Johnson Space Center, and there will be people that will understand what I'm going to say and will agree with me, the Johnson Space Center is probably the most important NASA facility. And there's a lot of sneaky stuff that goes on there, a lot of military involvement from the Department of Defense and DARPA, which is one of the US military sort of test bodies, if you like. So yeah, and then in his reply he says, I've ran your request through our directories. So he's gone and searched for Solar Warden, and he's said, and basically he's saying, I'm waiting on one other division with the command to respond back to me. Personally, I think what he's saying there is, yeah, I found all the information on Solar Warden, but I've got to wait for the other division to respond back. In other words, he's got to wait for his bosses to get back to me. You know, and then he asked the question, did NASA refer you to us? Now, I did reply to that email and I said, no, NASA did not refer me to you. I referred myself because I'm a nosy bugger and I don't care what the DOD think. And I'm telling you now, if anyone from the DOD is listening to this, really, really sorry, but Mr. Cooper Kendall, you gave away free information. I asked for it, you freely gave it. What you didn't do in your reply was tell me that I couldn't share it. It's a bit late for that now because we're 3 years down the road. Let's just quickly look at the program, okay? And this is the information that's come from Gary McKinnon. It's come from people like Jeff Rentz, ex-military personnel, and stuff that I've researched myself. Okay, so the program, the Solar Warden Secret Space Program, not only operates classified under US government, but also under the United Nations Authority. Okay, so you might be wondering, how do I know this information? Well, there are a few people, and many others that have tried to find out the truth and have succeeded by obviously leaking information or simply asking questions, and have government departments slip up like I did, and they're giving away the information freely. So, as I've said previously, one notable contributor is Gary McKinnon. Now, when Gary McKinnon hacked into the US Space Command computers all those years ago, he learned of the existence of non-terrestrial officers, as I've said, and fleet-to-fleet transfers. And this is where the US Navy comes in. Remember, I told you about the staff under the US Navy program. Fleet-to-fleet transfers. When we talk about fleet, in Navy terms, we're talking about the 10th Fleet or the 7th Fleet or whatever. So we're talking about fleet-to-fleet transfers. What Gary found out was fleet-to-fleet transfers from terrestrial on Earth to non-terrestrial in space. And he then came across the name of the secret program, Solar Warden. He was charged by the Bush Justice Department with having committed the biggest military computer hack of all time. And he stood to face prison time for up to 70 years if he was extradited from the UK. But trying Ernest McKinnon in open court would involve his testifying to all the facts that he uncovered, and his attorney would be able to subpoena government officers to testify under oath about the Navy's secret space fleet. So, as we know, to date the extradition never went ahead, and we blocked it. That's one good thing that the UK government did. What I'm trying to say, folks, is if they had to take him before a court to testify, it would have opened up a whole can of worms. The lie would have been uncovered because McKinnon would have given evidence. He's not going to lie. He would have had to testify in front of the court of law about classified facts that would have to be brought into the court and spoken about. But the law says that government officers would have to testify under oath. So they would have to acknowledge it. And it was never going to happen. Remember, they want to keep it secret. So you could kind of see it coming. But McKinnon also found out about the ships and the craft within the Solar Warden program. I mean, it's said that there are approximately 8 cigar-shaped motherships, each longer than 2 football fields end to end, and approximately 43 small scout ships, or UFOs, or spaceships, whatever you want to call them. And the Solar Warden fleet operates under the US Naval Network and Space Operations Command, NNSOC, formerly the Naval Space Command. And there are approximately 300 personnel involved at that facility, with the figure rising.
This is Planet X. Planet X.
Okay, so we've got a rough idea of how Solar Warden's operating, if you like, and what I want to do now is play you a bit of an interview that the BBC did with Gary McKinnon. This is taken some years ago, but I want you to listen to the interviewer, and I want you to listen to Gary's responses, because he does talk in depth about the well, he talks in depth about what he found out, and it's really interesting. Take a listen to this, folks.
Here's your list of charges. You hacked into the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Department of Defense and NASA, amongst other things. Why?
I was in search of suppressed technology, laughingly referred to as UFO technology. I think it's the biggest kept secret in the world because of its comic value. But it's a very important thing. We've got old age pensioners can't pay their fuel bills. We've got countries being invaded to get award oil contracts to the West. And meanwhile, secretive parts of the secret government are sitting on suppressed technology for free energy.
So how did you go about trying to find the stuff that you were looking for in NASA, in the Department of Defense?
Well, I assumed that although it's part of a secret government project, there must be military ties. I'd read 400 expert witness testimonies, ranging from civilian air traffic controllers through military radar operators, all the way up to guys that were in charge of whether or not to launch nuclear missiles. So some very credible people. All of these people had said that there are UFOs, they are alien, We're using anti-gravity and reverse engineered technology that came from captured UFO craft.
We're using anti-gravity?
Yeah.
Right now? Who's using anti-gravity?
Secret compartmented parts of the government. And I think we're being trickle-fed by the various defence contractors, so that I predict within the next 7 years we will have anti-gravity as a publicly usable phenomena.
Okay, so how did you go about hacking into the computers to find what you were looking for?
Well, unlike the press would have you believe, it wasn't very clever. I searched for blank passwords. I wrote a tiny Perl script, the Perl language, that tied together other people's programs that searched for blank passwords, so you could scan 65,000 machines in just over 8 minutes.
So you went and actually accessed 65,000 machines sitting on, I guess, 65,000 desks in different buildings?
No, because all 65,000 aren't necessarily live yet. You might find typically 5,000 might be live. And out of that, 500 might be Windows machines, then 50 might have blank administrator passwords, which is a pretty bad ratio for the world's largest military.
So you're saying that you found computers which had a high-ranking status, administrator status,
Yep.
which hadn't had their passwords set, they were still set to default?
Yeah, precisely. And in some cases it was thousands of machines, because they had an image. Rather than install Windows off a CD at every machine, you blat it onto an image, stick the image in all the machines, and every single machine has a blank local administrator password. So.
And you actually eventually took control of one particular machine on a desk somewhere in NASA, is that right?
Well, I mean, I had control of every machine that had a blank administrator password, because the door was open. So.
And what did you use that to do?
I was searching for files and evidence in relation to the UFO question.
Okay. Were you the only hacker to make it in, past the slightly lower than expected lines of defence?
Yeah, exactly. There were no lines of defence. There was a permanent tendency of foreign hackers. You could run a command when you're on the machine that showed connections from all over the world. Check the IP address to see if it was another military base or whatever, and it wasn't. The General Accounting Office in America has again published another damning report saying that federal security is very, very poor.
So let's get this straight. While you were on a machine inside one of these computers in the Department of Defence, say, there were other hackers logged onto that machine as well from around the world?
Yeah, you run your netstack command and you see the list, Turkey, Germany, Holland, everywhere.
Are they all?
So there you go, folks. Just a little snippet from Gary and the BBC there, and I actually quite like that interview because Gary McKinnon is quite sincere, and he's straight down the line. He hasn't got anything to hide. Why should he? The guy is a real life hacker. How many people do you know have hacked into military computers? How many people do you know have found out the information he has? It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because in that interview he talks about electromagnetic gravity, and this is something that crops up in the UFO community time after time after time. And I mean, I'm a big believer that the military are using electromagnetic gravity today, and I mean, look at the people around the world that are in their garages, in their sheds at home, developing free energy devices that use electromagnetic gravity or to that effect or something similar. So the concept is there, and I think the technology is there. So recently, in the last sort of 6 months or so, on the Planet X live show on the Sunday night, I don't know if you cast your minds back, we covered in the show, in the news at one point, about some new leaked information that Northrop Grumman, who are an aircraft and military contractor, if you like, they make and build all sorts of different aircraft for the US military. Information came out, and I think it was, if I remember rightly, back to September of 2012, of a new test aircraft, and this test aircraft has been witnessed and has been seen flying and operating in the Californian areas near to Edwards Air Force Base. And next to Edwards Air Force Base in the desert area there, in the barren sort of wasteland, there is a Northrop Grumman facility, and it's a testing facility where they keep things under the wraps and they try and hide it from us. But this new aircraft is called the TR-6 Telos, and Telos, T-E-L-O-S, stands for Trans-Atmospheric Electrogravitic Low Observability Surveillance Platform. If you go onto the Planet X forum, www.planetxlive.co.uk, go to the forum pages, go down to In the News, and just scan back a few pages on the forum, and you will see the headline TR-6 Telos Northrop Grumman top secret aircraft revealed. And this aircraft is immense. Now, the reason I'm linking this to Solar Warden, because in that video clip there that I played, you heard Gary McKinnon talking about the technology. And one thing that obviously didn't come true is that he said he thought in 7 years publicly they would be using electromagnetic gravity. Well, publicly we know that that's not happening. So he was wrong there. But this TR-6 aircraft that Northrop Grumman built for the US Air Force or the US Navy or whatever Black Ops program is immense. It's huge. Those of you that know your aircraft, think about the B-2 flying, the flying bomber, the big triangle-shaped black stealth bomber that the US military have. It's about 10 times the size of that. 10 times the size. And what this thing is meant to do, it's meant to have electrogravitic engines. So it's got electromagnetic engines. We're not supposed to have this technology. It's stealthy. Low observability means basically stealth. It's very hard to detect, and it's a huge surveillance platform. And this thing has been flying around in the Californian desert near Edwards Air Force Base. It's also been seen in Nevada, up around Groom Lake, Area 51. Trans-atmospheric means that it can fly in the lower reaches of space. So is it part of the Solar Warden secret space program? The answer to that, folks, is quite likely yes. I'm not going to go into this TR-6 aircraft too much. I will cover it on another show because it is related to UFOs. It's related to UFO sightings because these type of test aircraft, I personally think, are responsible for many UFO sightings around the world, including, quite possibly, I can't prove it, but the Phoenix Lights incident of 1997. I also think that it's likely or possible, I'm not going to rule it out, that this aircraft or something similar as part of the Solar Warden space program could also be responsible for the COSFROD UFO that was flying around on March the 30th and 31st, 1993. I don't know for sure. I don't think anyone knows for sure, but you can't rule it out. Look, folks, when you look at UFO sightings, when you read about them, when you listen to people talking about them on the television, or you listen to me on the radio and other people on the radio, or you read blogs, whatever you're doing, you see all these UFO reports of triangle-shaped aircraft. Yeah? It happens everywhere. America, Britain, France, Spain, Brazil, Timbuktu, everywhere. We're not going to rule out that they could be some sort of aircraft that we operate, reverse engineered the technology from ETs or whatever, and we're operating it as part of some secret space program. Just think about it for a moment. It's real. If we can make nanochips, if we can build iPhones and iPads, if we can build mosquitoes that are robotic with cameras on, with frequency radio chips in, then we can build a secret space fleet. This is reality, folks. Just think about that for a minute.
Planet X. Strange goings on.
Okay, folks, every week I like to cover those things that have been cropping up in the news, on the internet, in magazines, on the telly, on the radio, that are a little bit strange and, well, certainly raise a few eyebrows. And this week, I'm a really bit unsure about this. It's the whole Nazi thing and the swastika, and its link to the UFO religion. And the Guardian, in the last couple of weeks, has reported on a cult, if you like, or religious cult, a UFO religion, the Raelians. And basically these guys, they want to rehabilitate the swastika. Okay? They believe that the symbol has been associated with Nazis for too long and have launched a campaign to reclaim it. Okay? For those of you that don't know a bit of history here, Hitler and the Germans and the Nazis did not invent the swastika. It's been around way before Egyptian times, and it's actually an ancient symbol. Okay? So, before you read into it, and what I'm going to say about this bit of strange news, just forget about the Germans, forget about Hitler, we're talking about the swastika. Unfortunately, it's associated with them, and it's seen as a bad thing. Reality says that it's not. It's an ancient symbol, and we've got to live with it, okay? And sadly, kids in schools these days don't get taught that. They just get taught that the swastika is linked to the Nazis. But anyway, the Raelians are apparently the world's largest UFO religion. Okay, and in Long Island in the US, last month, in fact, sunbathers on the beach that were soaking up the sun, their attention was caught by a light aircraft flying about above them with a flag trailing behind it, and on it was a massive swastika, and the website address was proswastika.org. And now, of course, obviously most of the people on the beach were outraged by it. But who was responsible for publicly flaunting this ugly symbol of hate? Neo-Nazis? Pranksters? Neither. It was the Raelians, the largest UFO religion, and the stunt was part of their pro-swastika campaign aimed at rehabilitating the symbol. Not because the Raelians are far-right extremists, but they believe the Nazis hijacked the ancient, obviously Sanskrit peace symbol, if you like, and it's been allowed to stand for too long. So, in one sense, fair play to them, because they're standing up for something that they believe in. Whether or not the greater masses of the public of the world are going to listen to him is another matter. Oh, what do you guys think of this? You know, do you think that these communities, these UFO or extraterrestrial loving communities, do you think they will get anywhere by reviving these types of symbols? Or has history taken that away? Has history taken it away that there is no chance of them recovering the swastika? The problem I have, folks, and a lot of you will probably disagree with me, this whole cult thing, this whole Raelians cult thing, you know, I only know a little bit about them. I don't particularly want to know any more about them. In my eyes, it's like, what is it? It's like the Waco massacre. Oh, are they some kind of special cult? You know, are they bending over willy-nilly, waiting to be probed by grey aliens, or you know, I don't know, folks. Now, I'm sorry, I'll probably upset people by saying that, but that's my view. I'm not saying it's your view, but listen, each to their own, isn't it? You know, I'm okay. I'm being negative towards them, but and I'm sure the aliens don't like what I say, and if there are aliens listening to this, then, you know, apologies, but that's my personal view. I don't believe in cults or religions. I don't believe it's going to get you anywhere, and I certainly don't believe in religion as a whole anyway. But if you're spiritual, and you believe that there's unconditional love and all that kind of thing, then great. But you know, if you can revive the swastika, then go for it. But you're going to have a tough time. And do you know what, folks? Why now? Why are they bothering to do it now? You know, what annoys me the most is when I looked up this strange news, if you like, about the aliens wanting to rehabilitate the swastika, and I read the Guardian article. I was a bit annoyed, right, because it was printed on Sunday the 11th of August 2013, okay, and the main picture on the article was of 3 South Korean aliens on the street, right, protesting. They're dressed in white boiler suits, and all 3 of them have got the stereotypical grey alien mask on, or head mask, with the big black eyes, the big bulbous head, and they're all holding up their arms in defiance. Yeah, they're protesting because we want to take back and rehabilitate the swastika. First of all, South Korean aliens, this is where you went wrong. By using the stereotypical alien mask, you're not doing yourselves a favour, in my eyes. Okay? If you're serious about extraterrestrial life, then don't mock it. Don't dress up like a twat and stand in the street preaching your rights that you want to take back the swastika when you look like a complete idiot. I'm sorry, folks, but that's my view. And things like that annoy me. Okay, the media and commercial businesses for too many years have portrayed extraterrestrials in this light. Big head, big eyes. Oh, look, it's aliens. All right, and if these guys are serious about what they want to do with rehabilitating this symbol, then I think they need to rethink it a little bit. Well, certainly the South Koreans, all right, and like, again, no offence to other aliens in America or wherever in the UK that are listening to this, you may not do that, but if you've got contacts with your counterparts in Korea, then maybe you want to have a word in their ears, because I think portraying aliens with this commercial rubbish is not a good thing. And this is where the subject goes wrong, folks. You know, this is where it gets ridiculed, because you get muppets and twats like them in the street dressing up like that. But anyway, if they can rehabilitate it, then fantastic, you know. But you're up against history, you're up against billions of people, and you've got a big mountain to climb.
You're listening to Planet X. Planet X, the biggest paranormal show on radio.
Yeah, that's right, folks. We are one of the biggest paranormal shows on the radio, without a doubt. And as always, folks, we have the forum on the website. So www.planetxlive.co.uk, and crack onto the website, folks, and get yourself on the forum. We have people using it on a daily basis. We have people giving their views, and it's great. It's great to see you guys putting in a bit of input, because forums are a funny thing, and like I've said before on the shows, yeah, you know, it's your show as well. You know, give us something to talk about, and you know, I got asked to talk about Solar Warden this week. Someone asked me to cover it, and this is what I'm doing. So yeah, please get on there, folks. There's so much stuff on there. You can see, you can read about the Team X. You know, you read about what us guys do. But more importantly, get on the forum, share your views, share your UFO sightings. You know, I get sent loads every week, and it, you know, some I have to filter out, and some I don't bother looking at, and some I do look at. But it'd be great for the listeners to share your views. And moving forward, folks, I'm going to put out an open invite to you. Like I've said previously, my show, the Darren Perks Show, is a little bit different. I'm really not going to get on the well-known people in ufology. because we've all heard them before. Yeah, we'll save that for the main show on a Sunday night. What I'm going to do on my show is get normal, down-to-earth, on the same wavelength people. I'm not saying, the well-known UFO experts, if you like, or the ones that are always on the telly and radio. I'm not saying they're not normal people, but it'd be nice to get you guys talking on my show. Because at the end of the day, you are the public. You are the eyes and ears of what goes on around the world. So, yeah, it's an open invite. If one of you wants to come on the show and share your views about UFOs and its related subjects, brilliant. We'll do it over Skype, and we'll get you on the show. And I don't mind if you have highly controversial views or you want to get something off your chest. We'll cover it. And even the skeptics, if there's any skeptics listening to this, come on and speak to me. It doesn't matter. We're all friends on Planet X, and it's great to be able to get the views of you guys, because it's better, isn't it? We can relate to it more. Anyway, let's go back to Solar Warden, because that is what the show mainly is about tonight, and I wanted to finish off with a bit more info on Solar Warden and how it's basically made up. And I've spoke about it throughout this show, and I've given you different information. It's come from McKinnon, it's come from research done by myself and other people. But the other side of it is, you might wonder how this secret program is made up. And basically it's made up from United States Aerospace Black Project contractors, so people like McDonnell Douglas, Northrop Grumman, JT3. JT3 in fact they man the bases on the Nellis Air Force Base, Area 51, but there is also another side to it. Companies like Kinetic, the US side of it, the UK side of it, Raytheon, massive contractors, and there's all sorts of other ones in there as well. But you've got contributions for parts and systems by Canada, the UK, Italy, Austria, Russia, Australia, and probably a whole load more. But it's also said that the program is tested and operated from secret bases such as Area 51 in Nevada in the USA. I'm not saying it's purely tested at Area 51, but I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't, because the place is ideal. You can't get near it. But there's also other bases like Dulce, and even here in the UK there are places. There are places in the Irish Sea. There's an area in the Irish Sea off the coast of Wales, in between Wales and Ireland, that if you get too near it in a boat, they don't like it. That's one of their sort of aerial testing places, and Kinetic use that area. Up in Scotland, you've got the secret naval bases up there, and up in the Highlands, you've got areas as well. And in Australia, there are areas around Alice Springs that are used and tested for this type of thing. Perfect places where no one is around to test a secret space fleet. So look, folks, let's have a think about it. Okay, I've covered basically what Solar Warden is. I've reiterated the information that McKinnon found: 43 scout ships, 8 cigar-shaped motherships, 300 personnel operating as non-terrestrial officers, fleet-to-fleet transfers, Naval Space Command, Department of Defense, probably the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, the US Army, the RAF, the Royal Navy, the British Army, everyone. So should we just write this off as utter nonsense? Should we? I mean, it's a bit far-fetched, isn't it? Secret space program, Solar Warden. What's that? Is that to protect us from sunburn? Yeah, Solar Warden. You can buy it in Boots, factor 30. No, folks. Yeah, we can joke about it. I can sit here, rant and rave, joke. I think it's a very real thing. And we shouldn't write it off, because as time goes on, the truth will slowly come out. Because many people around the world are now witnessing craft moving around in the skies and subspace that completely defy gravity. They don't conventionally work or operate the way that we know them to. So it kind of gives us a big question mark, doesn't it? Why are they doing it? You know, whether they're part of Solar Warden's secret program, military experimental aircraft or not, thousands of people know what they see. Yeah? You've got your own eyes, you've got your own ears, you've got your own mind, and every single one of us is able to use a bit of common sense. We're able to be rational, and we're able to understand something that doesn't quite fit in. Do you know what I mean? Look, folks, in my view, Solar Warden is very real and a very strong possibility, and I believe that it's going on above our heads. So no, I don't think we should rule it out as complete nonsense. Yes, it's a conspiracy, because all the hype and the controversy surrounding the facts and information about the program. Is it sensitive? Yes. Massive understatement. Like I said at the beginning of the show, folks, if this ever got out, it would be one of the biggest lies in history ever uncovered. Yeah? Imagine if it got uncovered. You know what they'd have to do then, don't you? The moon landings. Was that a lie as well? Was that part of some elaborate space program? Was Ronald Reagan, was his Star Wars space program, weapons program in fact, the Star Wars space weapons program, did it get used? Probably did. If they can use HARP, they can use space-based weapons. This program would change the world and our views on space exploration and travel, so no wonder that it's been kept a big secret. And I tell you what, folks, we should all keep it in the back of our minds now, at least for a few more years anyway.
X marks the spot. This is Planet X.
Okay then, folks, this brings us to the end of this week's show on the Solar Warden Secret Space Program. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's something that I was asked to cover, and it's something that I'm quite passionate about, and it's something that's not going to go away, and who knows what the future holds. We'll just have to see. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to obviously check out the website and the forum, planetxlive.co.uk. And don't forget to check out the other shows. The Tuesday night, 8 PM, the Tony Toppin Show. Wednesdays, the Ben Emlyn Show from 8 o'clock. And obviously the Darren Perks Show every Thursday from 8 o'clock. But most of all, folks, is the main show on a Sunday night. And that's from 8 o'clock. Live on air. Planet X Live. Folks, the truth is out there. Thank you very much for listening. And I will catch you all soon. Until next week. Goodbye.
This is Planet X. Planet X.
This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill.
Do not be afraid. We are now in control of what you hear.
1, 2, 3, testing.
A journey to the far reaches of knowledge and the unknown.
I can't believe I just saw that.
From aliens to angels, conspiracies to cover-ups.
One soul and preeminent power.
From extraterrestrials to exposing the truth.
I'll try and explain as much as I can.
You're listening to Planet X.
You're listening to Planet X.
Planet X.
This is the Planet X Network, and stay tuned. The Darren Perks Show is coming up next.
Officially does not exist. This is Planet X. Planet X.
Good evening, everybody. This program. For those of you that do not have any clue what I'm talking about, just sit there for a moment and think Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, The Enterprise, Captain Kirk, Jean-Luc Picard, Number One, Data, and all the other guys that go with it. Not quite as extreme as that, but something that is very, very real and is happening in space, in vast orbits around the planet, and they're trying to keep it secret. I'm going to cover this week because it's something that I've spoken about before personally on the TV and on the radio. And I know there are many people around the world that are aware of the Solar Warden program. Not only is it highly controversial, but it's something that it's 8 o'clock. It's Thursday evening. I'm Darren Perks, and you're listening to the Darren Perks Show on Planet X Live. Get ready for the journey. Okay then, folks, this week we are going to be covering the Solar Warden space